Two Navy helicopters now join search operations to trace those missing in the Andhra Pradesh boat tragedy. Chief Minister Jagan Mohan Reddy is expected to survey the spot of the tragedy and meet victims in the hospital today. Neha Hebale joining us on the phone line. Neha, we've been tracking the story since yesterday. The fact of the matter is, in terms of progress in rescue operations, we haven't seen much. 26 rescued. Beyond that, the number of people missing continues to remain the same since last evening. Can you tell us what exactly are the challenges before the rescue operation? What's the progress so far?
Well, first of all, it's really most unfortunate what happened yesterday. One of the worst riverine tragedies in the country in recent times. Where we saw a private ferry carrying tourists. And do remember that, this spot, exactly where the incident happened, that's the Papikonda Hills in Andhra Pradesh, was turning into a tourist spot. Of late, there was a lot that is being done by the government as well in this regard to, make it a tourist spot. Now, as far as the search and rescue operations are concerned, the latest figures, like the number of people rescued at about 27, and we're also given to understand that about 8 people are feared to be dead, and 8 people have been confirmed dead. The dead bodies have been retrieved, and many more are still, feared to be dead. So, of course, while we saw the search and rescue going on till late last night, even today morning, we're given to understand the search and rescue operations have resumed. 2 more Navy helicopters, have now, of course, been, pressed into action, and also important to remember that from yesterday, we've had teams of the NDRF, the SDRF, the local police as well that have been, on ground, that have been trying to search for possibly the bodies or maybe even rescue people alive now that the chances of that are slim. So with regard to, also, of course, now monitoring from the state government, yesterday we got in a word from, the Tourism Minister, Srinivas, and also from the Home Minister as well. And both of them said that, they would be monitoring the rescue operations very closely. We also saw the Chief Minister, Jagan Mohan Reddy, very clearly stating that all district officials will be employed for the search and rescue operations, that all prime focus right now would be on this. He is also expected there later to survey this entire spot.
Yes, so Neha, since yesterday we've got some clarity about the competent authority, it seems, is the Director of Ports, and the Port Authority is actually the nodal agency supposed to do a survey of the situation before giving clearances to these kind of boats that ferry tourists mostly to those locations that you just mentioned. Beyond that, the Irrigation Department of Andhra Pradesh is also responsible, Neha. Have we heard from these departments? Because there has been criminal negligence owing to which this tragedy took place.
Well, as of now, of course, no real word coming in from these authorities, but do remember that it was just yesterday, when we grilled both of the authorities concerned, that is, of course, the Tourism Minister, who said that this was a private boat. But at the end of the day, do remember that it was negligence by the government and, proper checks and balances that were not in place that has caused a mishap like this. So even if, a flood warning was issued in the area from 9th September, you have the government boats that were not allowed to operate there. What we're questioning is, why was it that the private boats were allowed to, function over there? Were there licenses that were issued illegally? Was the license not issued at all? While, of course, the owner of the boat, of this KVR Travels, has claimed that he had his paperwork in place, it is really now, the onus really lies on the government of Andhra Pradesh to really check what went wrong. And, of course, there's no question of rectification now. Going forward, they cannot afford another incident like this. Because do remember, we've seen a boat capsize in the past as well,
Yes.
in the Godavari River as well.
Yes, in fact, you're right. Last year, on the 7th of August, there was a very important high-level meeting that was held where responsibilities were fixed for ports, for irrigation, for DG Fire Services. And there is a clear mandate that has gone out to the Irrigation Department and to the Port Authority. The Director of Ports would be directly answerable why these private operators, like you said, were allowed to function despite the river being in spate and despite the flood warning. Stay with us, Neha. Let's just point out for our viewers that it's relief for some and anxiety for most, in fact, as rescue operations continue, even 18 hours later, for the 39 missing tourists in the Godavari River boat tragedy. So far, 8 bodies have been recovered, 26 rescued of the 64 tourists, and 9 crew were on board, is what we are given to understand. So over 70 people were traveling in that ill-fated ferry. Chief Minister Jagan Mohan Reddy is likely to visit the spot today after asking his ministers to supervise the rescue work. A flood warning that was already in place in this area since the 9th of September was completely ignored. Private boats continued to operate, carrying huge number of passengers to the places of tourist interest. Chief Minister has now directed officials to suspend all boat services.
వన్ సైడ్ వంగి అట్లానే మెల్ల స్లోగా అలా పడింది, మొత్తం వంగింది సార్. వంగినాక కొంతమంది అల్లకెళ్ళి దునికిండు, బయటికి వెళ్ళినాక పడవ ఇట్లా కొద్దిసేపు బోర్లా ఉంది సార్. అంటే అది ఉల్టా అయింది. పైన ఎక్కినాము, ఒక 20-30 మంది దాకా పైన ఎక్కినాం. ఎక్కి కొద్దిసేపు ఉన్నాం. తర్వాత అది స్లోగా మళ్ళీ వన్ సైడ్ మునగడం మొదలుపెట్టింది. అప్పుడు అందరం లోపలికి నీళ్ళలో పడినప్పుడు కొంతమంది అంటే తిరుగుతూ ఉన్నారు, కొంతమంది జరిగి అవి బయటికి కొట్టుకొచ్చినాయి. అవి పట్టుకొని మేము బయటికి వచ్చేసినాం. అప్పుడే వెంటనే ఒక పడవ వచ్చింది. ఆ పడవ రావడం వల్లనే మేము అందరం.
ఎంతమంది ఉన్నారు
అందులో దాదాపుగా 60-65 మంది
పాసెంజర్స్, 20 మంది క్రూ ఉంటారండి. సార్ ఏ ఊరు సార్ మీది?
మాది వరంగల్ డిస్ట్రిక్ట్ సార్.
మొత్తం అందరిదేనా?
ఒక 14 మంది వచ్చినాం వరంగల్ డిస్ట్రిక్ట్.
మీరు ఎంతమంది ఉన్నారు?
మేము 14 మంది వచ్చినాము, 5 మందిమే ఉన్నాము, ఇంకా 9 మంది కనిపించట్లేదు.
Neha Hebbale is still with us. Neha, on one hand, of course, it's absolutely clear that the safety mandate was ignored by various departments of the Andhra Pradesh government. But on the other hand, when we look at the exact sequence of events in terms of what happened at that moment, it seems some people went to the upper deck, leading to a sort of imbalance. But the second point that is coming through some of these testimonies that we've just heard is that some people were not wearing life jackets and those who were wearing them could be saved. Is that correct?
Well, absolutely, that is correct. And the fact still remains, just brings us back to the point of how a flood warning was issued when the water in the river was at about 2 lakh cusecs. Well, as of yesterday, as of when the incident took place, do remember that the water was at anywhere about 5.1. Really makes it unsafe for the boats to operate. That's one thing. Now, secondly, the aspect of the life jackets that you said, were all the life jackets issued to all of the passengers on board? That's something that has to be looked into. One was also yesterday admitted that maybe all the passengers were not given the life jackets. And third and most importantly, also the passengers, basic safety measures were compromised on. The passengers were allowed to board this particular boat without checks and balances in place, and ultimately, it has proven costly today.
Yes, absolutely. And this is one of the biggest boat tragedies that the state has witnessed. Neha, thanks for joining us with your inputs. In fact, Miranau exclusively spoke to the Minister of State for Home Affairs, G. Kishan Reddy, who assured that he would seek a report from the DGP of Andhra Pradesh on the illegal boats operating in the area. I had a conversation with Mr. Reddy last evening on this entire matter. Let's listen into that.
Yeah, these number of times these accidents happening in Andhra.
Yes.
Last 2 years before also same thing happened. Unfortunately, today is a large number of persons we lost their life.
Yes.
My team's National Disaster Relief Force already reached 2 teams. They're stationed at Vijayawada. They are on the relief activity. They are helping the local administration and the local police. Last time also, same thing happened in the Vijayawada. Number of persons, they lost their life. That time, state government taken some measures. They stopped the unlicensed boats. They stopped under routes also. They stopped. Again, recently, I think this unauthorized they running this boat and number of persons.
But right under the noses of the district administration, how is that possible that private operators can actually take the liberty of running a boat with 60 tourists and endanger their lives? Don't you think the Andhra government has to take responsibility?
No. I spoken to DGP also.
Yes.
And I told him anything help from central government for the relief activity, we are ready to extend. Already my teams, my central government teams disaster teams, they already reached the area, they are helping. And state government should also inquire and they will send a report because they are in the relief activity. I am not insisted to immediate report. I am going to ask the report from state government and what is happened, how these private illegal boats are running without permission of the government of Andhra Pradesh. And how can these incidents happen? I am going to bring the report also.
All right. So clearly there, Minister in fact, MOS in Home Ministry, clearly stating that there is a collusion, there is some sort of a connivance between private players, private operators who run these boats and the authorities in Andhra Pradesh. So that speaks a lot about how these kind of incidents are happening simply because safety measures are not being followed. Players and support, in fact, have poured in from various political leaders. Prime Minister Narendra Modi have tweeted about this, saying that he is extremely pained by this incident. President Ram Nath Kovind also expressed his grief over the incident. Let's listen into some important reactions.